Hey, Shalom Israel. This is the Isupk Las Vegas mini documentary series. You understand? This week we'll be featuring Priest and Officer Ahrak. You understand? Of Isupk Las Vegas. You understand? If you could, you understand, tell the people who you were before coming into the UPK. Let us know who you are, where you're from, and give us a little bit about your backstory.
Kind. So again, my name is Priest and Officer of 50, Ahrak. I am born and raised, I'm native to Las Vegas, Nevada. I went elementary school. I went to Betsy Rose Elementary School. Middle school, I went to Cadwallader Middle School. And then high school, kind of bounced around a little bit. My first school, Arborview High School, I got kicked out of there because, I was basically, running with the wrong crowd, just angry as hell at the time. Didn't know how to, deal with some of the things that I was going through at that time. And so I just wanted to fight. And so I got kicked out of that school for fighting. Funny thing is, my mother's side, she's, they're Mormon. So she thought I needed white Jesus and whatnot, and try to put me in a Mormon private school. And between my rebellion and also my father just thinking, he already had it in his mind that he didn't agree with it. And so therefore he refused to pay for the tuition for it. That only lasted like maybe a month and a half. So after that, to get back into the public school system, I had to go to Peterson. I was supposed to be there for 9 weeks, but got out for good behavior and ended up going to Cimarron Memorial for my junior year, and then my senior year I graduated from Centennial High School. After high school, ended up moving down to South Carolina. Moving down to South Carolina for about between 6 to 8 months. Things just didn't really work out. I basically just always had a hard time finding, a job and whatnot between Las Vegas and the South. And so I ended up coming back. My mother was trying to get me into the electricians union. And then a girl that I was seeing at the time had told me that she was pregnant with my child. And so that led me to enlisting into the Army. Just on that, just real quick, the second week of basic training, I found out that the child wasn't mine. But so from there, I ended up doing 4 years in the Army.
Okay. So now, because of your appearance, because us as a nation, we're a carnal nation, meaning we base our opinions on people based on what they look like versus who they actually are. So if you could, tell the people about your struggles growing up as a child and the stereotype and the stigma that you was hit with growing up.
Not only is our nation like that, but I will say, because my mother's side, my mother is Esau, they're a whole lot like that themselves. So with that being said, growing up, I honestly will say that the most difficult time that I had with my own identity coming up was at the home front, just off the simple fact that, I've always been, always wanted to basically follow after my father's footsteps. I always wanted to be around him, essentially be around my people. I just didn't understand it at that time for what really was. But my mother had an issue with that. And of course, she caveated off the fact, because I'm the eldest of three, the way that the three of us look, where we take more to her side physically, in a physical appearance, than our fathers. And so, I would, want to dress like my people, act like my people. And my mother's biggest pet peeve was, I spoke like my people. And so, she would always tell me, call me by my slave name. Oh, why do you have to talk like that? Why do you have to talk like you ghetto? Why do you think you're so black? I'm like, okay, you know, if like my dad's black, like what does that mean for me? And, you know, not only that, my mother comes from a litter of 11. With that being said, I'm the fifth eldest out of, at that time when I was in high school, there was 40, I think there was 44 of us cousins on just my mom's side, and we were all really close. And for the most part, like all the cousins and whatnot and aunts and uncles on my mom's side, they was on that same thing where they're just like, oh, Darian, like, why do you have to be ghetto? Why do you have to be this, that, and the other? So to be honest, the biggest issue that I had was what I got from my mother's side, because it caused a whole lot more confusion. And but as far as what I dealt with, like at school, dealing with my actual people, dealing with blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, I mean, it was kind of just one of them things where, you know, there, of course, there was brothers that would be like, oh, no, you ain't black. And then, you know, they would get to know me after a week or two, and they'd be like, man, like, you really is a nigga, ain't you? Like, you get down with us, like, you know, you function with us like how we function, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, I had a whole lot of conversations with that. And then, of course, you know, the ones that would just meet my father off the rip, you know, they'd be mind blown, like, oh, damn, like, this nigga wasn't playing. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Okay. Tell me a little bit, and you don't have to necessarily go into detail, you know what I mean? But tell me a little bit about the Army, man, and what kind of culture shock that was for you, and how did it affect you, not only physically, but mentally, if at all? You know what I'm saying? What was the impact of being in the military?
Okay, so that's the thing about it. I'm not gonna sit here in front and say, you know, even though that I was accepted by my people to an extent, and, you know, at school, there was still a really big identity issue that I had even when I was going into the military. And so what I enlisted in 2014, so that puts me at 20, I was turning 21 that year, because I left in January of 2014 for basic, so 20 and 21. So to keep it frank, you know, I was still kind of like, I would basically call it, like, to be keep it a buck, like, I used to call myself the line walker, where, you know, I walked the line of both, you know, the white man and, you know, a black man. Where I know both sides of it. I just felt like I knew a little bit more of the in-depth white man, just because they would actually reveal themselves to me, because they would think that I wasn't them. And I slick at that time as well. I kind of felt like a lot of my brothers would hide themselves from me, because they wasn't sure, you know, there was always that little bit of a doubt that, like, you know, he really ain't a nigga. But so with that being said, going into the Army, you know, I wouldn't say that initially it was that difficult, because everybody was so keen on, you know, the physical appearance and whatnot. And then on top of that, you know, I just did my thing. Like, I didn't, you know, I wasn't on no little, just because I ain't trying to be too vulgar, but, you know, on no goofy crap. But when things actually became a real culture shock for me while I was in the Army, because that's actually when I had came across the Isupk and started learning under Commandant General Yohana. That's when a lot of things started to change. That was in 2015. My first sign-in was July 3rd of 2015, I believe. Might have been 2016. But, you know, from learning from under Commandant General Yohana and General Mahayaman and Captain Tazariak and Captain Katazar, and especially Captain Sakawar, because at that time he was real prominent. Like, he was one of the main captains that I actually learned from. while I was in the Army was Captain Soccer War. A lot of the things that they would bring out in those classes, like I really took them to heart because, it's like I know for a fact that they didn't go through the same things I went through, considering the fact that I was mixed and all of them weren't, aside from Captain Katazai. Or I'm not even sure if he's mixed or not. I just know he's just light skinned. That's what it is, correct? Or okay. So with that, with all of them bringing out the things that they were bringing out, and you didn't even experience that, but you could tell me what I experienced and why it went down like that. It really, really hit home for me because, to keep it a buck, I'm one of them people that has to experience something to really learn it. But then since I had already experienced it, but recognized that there was something going on my mother's side, but just couldn't understand the division, we'll say, that I had with my, with them, for them to not ever, not even speak to me, let alone meet me. But then again, for them not to experience that for themselves, but then be able to, when you in interracial marriage, this happens, that happens, the children go through this, and wooty wooty woo, for all of that to go down, for them to explain it in the class and not experience that for themselves, it really made me like just sit down and shut the hell up and just like, okay, nah, like they about to lay some things down. And hell, 5, 6 years later, here I am, because I've yet to hear them put out any type of information, any type of class where I was like, nah, that ain't right. Like everything's just been spot on. So as far as the culture shock, it was, the culture shock of actually realizing who I really was. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course, growing up, I was always more, we'll say, attracted to, affiliating with my own people, with, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. But I never really understood, you know what I'm saying? Like, I never really understood why, on top of, the fact that I was going through, basically identity issues, coming up. So, yeah. If that answer your question, sir?
Yeah. And, as a brother that had an opportunity to meet your father and your grandfather as well, man, I never questioned who you really were from the jump, because you had reputable brothers, honorable men in this truth vouch for you. So that was good enough for me. You know what I mean? And I didn't question it at all. You understand? But having an opportunity to meet your father and your grandfather just further solidified it for me. Not that I needed it, but to see them and see their mannerisms, and to see just the way they conduct themselves, it just further drove home the point, you know what I mean, that you are one of us. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to throw that out there because I know there's going to be some people that's going to watch this tape, and as soon as they see this tape, what's going to go through their mind is, okay, so ISUPK, they accept white boys now. That's how they doing it now.
Right.
You know what I mean? And as ISUPK Las Vegas camp leader, man, I'm here to vouch for this brother. I met this brother's father and his grandfather, and them brothers are both Judites, you understand? And them brothers are solid. And this brother comes from a solid lineage, you understand? And because of that, you know what I'm saying, I will go to war, you know what I'm saying, with this brother or for this brother under any circumstances. You understand? So I just want to throw that out there, man. And the last thing that I want to ask you about, man, before we wrap this thing up is, tell me how your life changed from when you first came into the truth and the brother that you've evolved into today.
I mean, the short version, like, I basically, because of everything that I've been taught and whatnot, the short version is I've been a whole lot less tolerant for manipulators and liars. Just to sum it up, just really quick. You know what I'm saying? And that's part of the, that's one of the biggest things that Yeah, those are the biggest people in the first place that oppress our people, whether it's our own manipulators and liars, but primarily, our oppressors, who the way that they oppress us is through lying and manipulation. And like I said, I saw a whole lot of those, a whole lot of what's been taught in the ISUPK under Commander General Yohana, just under all the mighty men that follow him, that like what they teaching is, they literally speaking about my, a side of my family that they've never met. You know what I'm saying? And for me, that, that's real heavy. You know what I'm saying? But I most definitely, I learned how to be stronger. I am a little bit of a slow learner, but with that being said, when I was coming up, my dad always tried to, drill into me not to be worried about what other people think and or say about me. And it didn't really hit home until I came into the ISUPK. Because, here, like, first and foremost, ain't no cowards allowed. But on top of that, like, you can't do this if you going to be worried about somebody, but you white. You got, this color hair. You got, this kind of hair, color eyes. In the wintertime, I'm pale as hell. So it's like, I can't be worried about what everybody is thinking when, ultimately I know who I am. You know what I'm saying? So, like, because of that, like Commander General Yohana has always said, like, you come into the ISUPK, we'll teach you how to be a man. We'll teach you to be strong. We'll teach you how to be, to stand up for yourself. As like a man should, a man of the Lord. And I honestly, truly believe that, that's basically what I've been standing and rising up, up into that position. You know what I'm saying?
Christ. Last question for you, right? It's a question, and then, it's an opportunity for you to, just lay down whatever it is that you want to lay down, right? But what would you say to, anyone out there who would be considered so-called Black, Hispanic, or Native American, who, come up against the truth or come up against Commander General Yohana, you know what I mean, or just don't believe what we're about, you know what I mean? What would you say? What would you say to the detractors, and then also what would you say to the young brother who might have gone through a similar upbringing as you, who was looking for a way out of his situation? You know what I mean? What advice would you give to the brothers and sisters that might watch this tape one day?
Man, first and foremost, shut the hell up and just listen. And that goes for both. For those that are trying to go against the truth, really the only way that I can see it is you just in love with, being lied to. And that, like, as horrible as it sounds to say, if you in love with being lied to, you're not allowing yourself any type of room for actual progression. You know what I'm saying? And that also goes the same with, a brother that's in my situation, and then go more specifically with a brother or a sister that's in, similar to my upbringing. Man, just stay strong. Like my father told me, I'll say the same thing to you. Like, man, who gives a damn what other people, say or think about you? Like, the sooner you allow that to sink in, the sooner you're able to be the person that you're supposed to be, where you're not being oppressed and, being kicked down by the people that, essentially supposed to be underneath you in the first place. Learn who you are so that you can actually be the person that you're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? A person under the Most High in Christ. So, yeah.
All right, Most High in Christ, man. Listen, man, I appreciate the time. You understand? I appreciate your candor and your honesty. You understand? This is the ISUPK Las Vegas mini documentary series. We're preaching Officer Ahrak. And with that, we say shalom.
Shalom.